Usually when we do the Laura Shepherd Show, you hear the chickens next door, old rooster. I want y'all to keep your ear out for the Coromandel sounds. Is that right? Because here we go. Ready? Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. Oh yeah, well things will change and leaves will fall and it will rain. Transform before your eyes. No time for chasing. Why me? Why'd that happen to me? Oh, you never know just how life is gonna go. So you jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. And it helps if we're all rowing together, headed downstream. Isn't that right? Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. Oh yeah, you gotta aim high and go for your pie in the sky. Go ahead and trust yourself. Everything will right itself. Oh yeah, well life's a stream and you go ahead and follow your dream. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. All together now, sing along at home if you know it. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew. Yeah. So much for joining me here. We do a little bit of hugging. I really appreciate you taking time from your gallery to come and speak with Laura Shepherd on the Laura Shepherd Show in the Coromandel.
Wow. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah. Ask away.
Okay.
Ask any questions you like.
I would like to know a little bit. Tell me something about Maori music.
Maori music. It is part of who we are. So it connects with the following. Mahi toi, the artistic expression. Tātai kōrero, the philosophical foundations. And karakia, the spiritual essence, I suppose. And then it's just performed in the most satisfying way. I'm so proud to be Māori. I'm so proud to be from Haratonga, from Kennedy Bay. I'm so proud to be a part of the Coromandel's artistic creativity, creative community. So yes, because nothing less is expected than the highest of excellence. So to be a part of the artistic community is, I'm very humbled by that. Yes.
And
so,
you've opened a lovely gallery.
Yes,
where you're supporting. You had a raffle recently.
Yeah.
And I participated in your raffle.
Yes.
And I was a winner.
She
I was
won.
so excited.
Yay!
I won this lovely piece. Now, when I bought the raffle ticket, you explained to me that that these were pieces of art that you were raffling off that were made by the youth in our community.
Yes.
How do we refer to the youth in Maori?
Rangatahi. So we have, this is another piece that was won by our community. So these are, this is the future of our creativity within the Coromandels by Māori. So they're naturalistic portrayals. This one's by Tiana Dobbs, my cousin's daughter. And this one's by my niece's daughter, Henemoa Harrison. So I'm really proud that our youth are coming out and expressing creatively. I think it's beautiful. I think what they're doing is amazing.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This lovely piece of art, and the artist has chosen not to sign it. Is that cultural or just youth?
I think it's just youth. They didn't sign their work, but they should.
They should. I think they should. And so I may drop this by your shop and have you, because I think that a young woman that made this is talented, and you know, just writing your name on it. One time I had and then I would also like to, if she'll sign my work, I'd like for you to pass this as one of my records on. So this is one of my work to trade for her work. I would like for that to happen.
That would be amazing.
Because, yes, you know, one time I had a mandolin teacher, and the one thing she taught me was to give my songs names. You know, because she was helping me with my songs, and I'd start playing something. She'd go, well, what's that one called? And I'm like, I don't know, that's the one about the river. And she's like, well, is it called the river? And it wasn't until I started writing the name of the song, you know, with a capital at the top of the page, and then I felt like that made them more concrete.
Yes, well, these pieces do come with their names, and so when you come in to get your signed, I'll get her to pass over the kōrero behind her beautiful art piece.
And that word kōrero?
The talk, the spoken word behind your art piece.
Because those three principles that related to music also relate to art.
Definitely.
Now, will you restate those principles for me?
The fundamental principles for Māori mahi toi, which is my belief and what I was taught, is to do with the artistic expressions and basis surrounding all arts and all walks of life. So that's mahi toi, the artistic expression. Tātai kōrero is to do with the philosophies of our people, and karakia are to do with the spiritual essence and foundations of our people. So yeah. Just before I go, because I know I'm on a time frame.
No, you stay here. You stay here for a few more minutes. Let's talk about the next thing.
The next one is art piece, is a kōrero, a piece that my father carved. He's no longer with us anymore. It's carved from kauri.
Kauri is a big tree?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a native to New Zealand. I just wanted to bring some shapes and forms of Māori art and its expression to the forum, today's forum. Dr. Patariki Harrison, that's my daddy. He was a doctor of literature, and I'm Tōhunga Whakairoa Master Carver. This is a waikawa. This is the simplistic elements that we weave and use. Is the harakeke plant, the flax plant from our bush. This is a beautiful piece done by one of our rangatahi. Her name is Briar. So she lives in the Colville region of our area. I'm excited at what our rangatahi are doing.
Excuse me, can you define the word of rangatahi?
Rangatahi, think of everything fresh and new. Think of the children. Think of the rebirthing of traditional conceptualization being brought forward for our next generation. So that to me means how I perceive rangatahi to be: creative, artistic, brilliant, intelligent, full of untapped potential. Rangatahi.
Love it. This is amazing, the way this flax, which is quite stiff, and if you walk by a plant, you have to be a little careful. It's quite stiff, and they cut it, and my understanding is there's quite a bit of... Can I hand this to you so that I don't want to put it down? And, And there's quite a bit of work and intention that just goes from the harvesting on through. And look at this. This is amazing, this lovely little curl.
Koru, yeah.
Koru.
Yes. So, elements from the land, we have our harakeke that we work with. We have the clays of our lands, beautiful, from our whenua, from clay that has been harvested from our land, worked for our gallery. So this is a piece by Mike O'Donnell, who is a very spiritual creator, that he uses clay and moves the clay just in an awesome way and in a spiritual way. And there's another little pottery, wakahuia is what we call them, the container or the vessel. It's a Māori patterned one, and that's by Te Whānoa. He's a local potter, Māori, really excited to be showcasing our artisticness today. So,
and there's a lot of that, the spiral, which represents the fern unfurling. Am I correct in that? Among other things, I can only presume.
The foundations are to do with the earth and whakapapa and the beginning of law. Basically, when you're talking about whakairo as the artistic expression of Māori people, whakairo is the art of, whakairo is the thought of. So within that one word, hopefully that encapsulates, but just keeping it as simple as I can, it is the markings, the true markings of where we come from. So, yeah.
I love the way you speak about it. When a lot of times when I speak to artists, you have this really sort of full, encompassing, it's giving me goosebumps actually, this idea that it's more than just the doing of the thing, it's bringing your spirit in some...
Yeah, it is so spiritual. It is intergenerational. It is a passing down of our stories, history, culture, heritage. It is who we are. It is the elements of Māori symbolism, and it derives, everything derives from the nature.
And so you grew up with a father who was a recognized artist.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that gave you a head start as an artist yourself? Or do you consider yourself an artist?
No, I don't. I believe there's, I don't even, my work is in meeting houses throughout New Zealand, so we always took the words from our father. He was the head, and we just did marae after marae after marae, weaving. I didn't even realise I had a skill. I thought all Māori people could do this. It wasn't until I went away and I realised that we were unique in the sense of what we knew. Yeah, I'm very proud to be able to hold this intrinsic knowledge. Yeah.
And your father, was he inspired? Who was his inspiration? Do we know?
So, like I said, carving was intergenerational. So he was inspired by Pine Taiapa, one of the main tohunga whakairo from the East Coast. But there was lots of people that inspired him, musically, intellectually, spiritually. He was a very intelligent man. Yeah.
Ah, we have that in common. My dad was an intelligent man too. Yeah, that's why we get along so well. Yeah, and it's important to you to share with your community, and I guess that's why you've opened this gallery in town, where it's a super public space where...
It's so important to be able to showcase Māori art, Māori holistic art gallery. Those are the 4 concepts by which I would like to work in with. The alternative therapies also of our people, Māori and Pākehā alternatives, they are amazing. So we want to get back to the natural alternative therapies that were passed down to our people. Go back to the bushes, go back to the lands, go back to the sea. Our children are expressing a desire to come home and live on the lands, and I think it's time for our people to come home. There was, once upon a time, there was a shift from the from the rural areas. Our people moved to urbanisation, and now I feel that there is a complete shift, especially when it is to do with our Māori people coming home and occupying the lands. It's really important that they do that. I come from a place that, from a land that is rich in resource. I come from a place of poverty, but we have the resources, we have a beautiful community, we have intelligent people that can aid us and support us in our progression.
Yeah, and I think that that it's so intrinsic within you to do that. Like you said, you didn't even know that you were special going around doing art and holding to these truths. And so in your art gallery, there's art, but you also have a performance from time to time.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be having music night, so it's an opportunity for our youth as well as our people from Haratainga to come out and sing a song to connect with your community, especially for our youth to introduce themselves to their community and just let the people know who they are. It's really important.
Yeah, and your next one is February...
My next one is March
7th.
the 7th. March the 7th. We're having a wānanga type workshops in Kennedy Bay, which will showcase the demonstration and the talents of our local people demonstrating the arts that they love so much.
And this is on the
This is on the marae.
Okay, for some people that don't know, marae is like, I guess, a meeting hall, a town.
It's a place of where we come from and who we are, and it signifies, it lets us know who are you, where are you from, and what is your purpose in your life. So these are 3 areas that where all of our people should know in terms of their identification. It's really important.
And so on the 6th, you are inviting people onto the marae
to view our artists in their natural environment, so that the people can ask them questions about their art, about their art form, about their skill base as practitioners, and also to talk and meet with our rangatahi as well. It's an opportunity for all of us to meet and greet. Yeah, some people from Coromandel haven't had that, well, I wouldn't say all of them, but some of them would just like to come on and have an experience on the marae. And so this is an opportunity where we can do that.
Yeah, invite people and
be together. You know, have cups of tea, have a meal together. learn about the histories of the local people, the symbolism in the wharenui, what it pertains to, what it means to us, who we are as a people.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to talk to you and hear you speak in these, I don't know, it's so different from the way I talk about things, the way you say we and us and our people. And, you know, I feel like everything that comes out of your mouth has has more like thought and history and spirit behind it. I'm going to have to start thinking more. I don't know what the word is.
I think you're beautiful just the way you are. Absolutely.
Thank you.
How I met you coming in to the gallery. What a wonderful person. You know, you can just tell when somebody is coming in with their heart and when somebody is not, and this lady is amazing. So I'm here today to support the kaupapa of sharing the love and the caring. Peace be with you all today. Thank you for having me.
I'm so honored. Okay, I'm going to take this little microphone off of you. Oh my goodness, I'm going to hand you back this beautiful pot. Oh, thank you.
So just move
it's like, and we'll gather up some of these. Look at this beautiful, beautiful basket. The way, oh my goodness, I could just hug this basket. All right, so here I am in this lovely spot here in the Coromandel, and I'm sitting in a house made of in situ adobe with some mud all around. It's been made with mud and a little bit of paper, and I hear from the builder that we've got a crisis because there's no more newspapers, and he's going to have to alter his recipe. For those of you that are on Patreon, I'll have a little sort of viewing of the house for the Patreon members. Patreon.com is a site where you can, you know, pledge and support different artists. There's all sorts of artists on there, and I'm one of them. All right, guest number 2, Mike Noonan. Yay! Yay! Pleasure to have you. Mwah.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. And that is the way we say hello in Maori, kia ora? Or does it mean more than hello? Is it like aloha?
Well, aloha is the Hawaiian way of saying aroha, and aroha is, which is the Maori word,
Yeah.
and just shows how widespread Polynesian people are in the Eastern Pacific,
Yeah.
in particular, and so Hawaiian aloha, we say kia ora, ora meaning wellness, so sharing wellness, that's an informal greeting. And then there are more formal ways of saying hello depending upon the number of people that are there. Tēnā koe for one person if I was formal. Tēnā korua if there were 2 people. And then tēnā koutou if there's a group of people. Yeah, that's how it's done.
And you were born here in
I come from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia?
Yeah, so I'm manuhiri. I'm a guest here in Aotearoa.
Me too.
New Zealand? Yeah, we both are. But I've been here nearly 30 years, and my wife is from New Zealand, so we met in Sydney, and I decided to come over, and I'm incredibly appreciative and pleased that I'm here because it's worked out very, very well for both of us to live in New Zealand, but to live in Coromandel.
Yeah, the Coromandel, I feel like the Coromandel has its own special magic. I really do. And I ended up here by a strange series of events 15 years ago, and I keep coming back.
Yep.
And I've noticed that people arrive in Coromandel, and either everything's fabulous, everything falls together, they get a place, and da-da-da-da-da, or they come into town and they go, oh, and nothing happens for them, and they leave right away.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's any number of people who have come through. Of course, being a peninsula, either you're coming here or you're not. You're not passing through, really.
No.
And the further you go up the peninsula, the more isolated it becomes. But if you look at it as being land surrounded by sea, which is how Maori looked at it, it's an incredibly strategic part of the country. Auckland is off to the west of us with the Hauraki Gulf, or Tikapa, as the Maori word, Tikapa Teru Moana, that's the sea there. And then to the east is the Pacific, so head off in the east and you go pretty well, you know, past Hawaii and end up in the Pacific Northwest up there in Seattle and Vancouver. And
there's a lot of similarities in the arts.
Yep, there are.
In the Pacific Northwest and down here, which you wouldn't think, because the climates are completely different, but there's a lot of similarities in them.
There are, and lifestyles, and I think there's it's a liberal place here in Coromandel, as it is the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of stuff is shared. Sure, maybe down in or in Vancouver you don't get as much rain as what we do here, but certainly we get as much rain as you do in Seattle or Oregon or in Portland. But it's a similar openness to people and open to ideas. But also I think there's a lot of community stuff that goes on in Washington State, Vancouver and Portland around people sharing, and even though they might be cities, they have those great little neighbourhoods. I know when we visited Seattle in 2014, you could have X number of hens and a rooster and a small goat and all that kind of stuff. And we came away with some great ideas from there. And of course Seattle leads the United States and many parts of the world as far as people with a disability being able to work. They're in the vanguard there, and they're really showing how to do it, to get people into work who have a disability, intellectual disability or mental health, or for some of the veterans who have returned. It's a great place in Washington State. Yeah.
And so, you, how long have you been on the peninsula? The whole time? Or?
No, a couple of years in Auckland, but we decided, Alison, my wife, worked for Television New Zealand, and there's been a long-running battle in this area around gold mining, and so prospecting is possible. Foreign companies have been able to in the past. So back in the 80s, it really came to a head. And in fact, I know that a lot of Kelly's whānau family from Haratonga were involved, were right there in the front of protesting about that gold mining. And as were a lot of Pākehā, European, New Zealanders. And so for quite a long time, there hasn't been any gold mining, and so that's great. And when it did rear its head about 3 years ago, 70,000 people marched in the main street of Auckland to protest, and the government knocked it on the head. Yeah. So that was a real victory for for local people. Yeah. So I came. Alison worked for Television New Zealand. She covered this area, and it appealed to me a great deal. Having grown up in the city, lived somewhere completely different. So yeah.
And then now you're well ensconced in the community. People speak very highly of some of the work. There's an organization that you are involved in.
Yeah.
KILT?
KILT, yes. It's an acronym for Coromandel Independent Living Trust. It started with a focus on disability, people with a disability. And what we found very early was that all the stuff that people with a disability were after, good transport, good housing, education, income, a job, was what nearly everybody else is after. So
other people, imagine that.
Yeah. So we broadened our scope and started to do more and more things. And following the community development model, which Jim Dyer is a well-known guy from Seattle who's a proponent of community development, and that's about responding to need. So we began to respond to that need, always respecting the other groups that were already there doing what they were doing, and making sure that we worked in with them and complemented them. That's part of that whole community well-being idea. However, we've grown.
What were the very first things you did?
First things we did was about information. Good information. Yeah. Ensuring that people who needed information were able to access it, and not us necessarily providing it all, but being able to steer people in the right direction so that people can make up their own mind from that information that they get. But it was back in '94, and really the web was really just beginning to take off, and people were getting more access, so it was a great time to start a community group. And we were moving away from paper-based information into getting people online and supporting them to learn how to use a computer.
Right.
And thus empowering them to find out their own information. And from there it grew, and we still do today very basic things, which is supporting people to get through to our first hospital, which is 1 hour away, and then the bigger hospital, Waikato, which is 2.5 hours away. So we provide people with some money for their petrol, or if they can't drive, we support them. We provide volunteer drivers to take them through to their hospital appointments.
Because the Coromandel is really rural isolated.
It is,
and
yes.
Just having access to a computer, friends, they were like, oh, you can just do it from, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got to find somebody with enough internet to run a live show, and I hope it's going out live, otherwise it will go out canned. But you don't, and I remember when I first started coming here, even like finding a piece of paper and a pencil, I mean, not that people didn't have them, but in a city, everybody has 17 jars with too many pencils crabbed in it, and there's paper everywhere, whereas, here it was a little more, you had
to look around and ask. Well, what it does is it makes you ask people questions, which is great, because then people are able to say, well, you can try so-and-so, or what about this? You've usually got a solution to what it is that you're after. The internet access, well, that's one of the latest things that we've done. We've developed a community Wi-Fi, which is free to local people, and the local council or local government requested that we do that. And in the more affluent communities on the peninsula, that's provided at the local libraries, but here we have a very small library. So we've done something, we modelled it of what they did in the South Island at a small community, and so we've used the excess capacity of the local schools' internet, and we've been able to then pipe that out by Wi-Fi, and we're spreading it sort of day by day as we go. And that will allow people on low incomes, particularly people with children, and the kids all need to be able to use devices at home, and they might have the device sometimes, but they don't have the Wi-Fi because their parents can't afford it. So that's one of the latest things that we've started up.
And your organization, there are some paid staff?
Yes.
And some volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, everybody works pretty well part-time. We've got about 32 paid staff.
Which is amazing to have 32 paid positions in the Coromandel.
Yeah, that's about spreading the money around that comes in. About 8 contractors regularly, 50, 60 volunteers doing a range of things. And well, the total population for the area that we serve is about 3,000, of whom 1,000 are Maori, and that is double the proportion of Maori population throughout the country. So what we have to do...
That's why there's still so much magic on the peninsula there.
Well, there's some fantastic stuff that is happening, and in fact, 2/3 of our school-aged rangatahi are Maori. And so there are 2 Māori schools, kura, one where Kelly is from, Horatonga, and one at Manaia, and that goes all the way to leaving when the rangatahi turn 18. And one of our roles is to be able to support those kura to introduce the tauira, the students, to all the people in the community where, you know what it's like when you go for your first job when you're 14 or 15 and your mum and dad know someone and whatever, Well, that's very good for middle class people, but very often for people who don't necessarily know everybody, we need to be able to make those introductions.
Absolutely. Because it counts.
Yeah, for sure.
The good old boys club works.
That's right. Well, we've got to...
We're glad you're a good old boy with us.
That's right. Well, the time of the old white guys, it's on a population basis, it's changing, and everyone's got to acknowledge the fact that for Māori and as part of our obligations as treaty partners with Māori, that we need to be able to work with people with respect. We need to be able to share our skills and what we have between us, and to be able to acknowledge that we all bring something to the table, but that Māori as tangata whenua, people of the land, are the ones who are here first, and we are here as their guests. And so by coming at it from that viewpoint, a lot of the issues for Māori around housing, education, where they are just not getting what they should be getting, that time has passed, and we need to be able to look forward to a future where everybody is going to have real opportunity to be able to do the best that they can. And so that's a major part of what we do at Kilt. Our staff, our volunteers, our governance with our trustees, we have Pākehā and Māori, and we come at it from that viewpoint, a position of strength really, and to be able to work to those strengths. Yeah.
And so people on the peninsula, if you're in need, they know about you probably already.
Yeah, we cover the top part of the peninsula. We've stayed here primarily because rather than spreading ourselves too thin, we reckon that there's enough work to do here, and so hence we've moved into social housing. We have 14 kaumātua flats, that's for older people. Adult education, we provide programs. The transport I mentioned, a community van. We've developed walking tracks because we know that people are interested in doing that. We've taken on the running of the refuse transfer station, and thus be able to build an upcycling centre there.
Yeah.
And so we work under a subcontract. We can work in the commercial space as well as the not-for-profit space to be able to cross-subsidise.
Yeah.
And we look at opportunities that arise. And again, making sure that we're not the only ones doing it, that we bring everybody along with us. That's what's really important. And then if people give us the go-ahead, so right now we're beginning an assessment of older people, what their needs are and what their wants are for that matter. And then we'll support a group of older people to then be able to roll out some initiatives, find some funding to be able to do some things that they want. We can be there on the side, we don't have to run it, and we'll be able to put some expertise where they need it and point them in the right direction, hopefully, for what it is that they require to be able to get what it is that they want for the rest of the older people in the community. So that's a recent initiative. So that's come from a government source. We found the money to be able to do that. We've engaged a local woman who has not worked for us before but knows a lot of people. And that's the great thing about being in a smaller community, that you can ask around and usually you can get into the right people to do the job that needs to get done, and it's great.
Well, I so appreciate your taking some time to come and sit with me and talk about it, and the scope of what your organization is doing is immense. Now, I hear you've taken over the bazaar. The bazaar is a used clothing store. That's my favorite store in town, because I get to reuse.
Yeah.
And, between computer, transportation, the youth, the elderly, and this idea of, I hear you referring to what they want.
Yes.
And, instead of just saying, that's giving me I get goosebumps sometimes. Well, I'm all goosebumpy. But it's so easy for, sometimes people come and say, well, you need this. And it's like, well, maybe you don't. know. So to ask people what they need and to keep it local on this community, because really 3,000 people is a lot of people to keep up with.
Yeah,
and we don't all need the same kind of help at the same time.
No, and a lot of that help comes from outside the area. And so what we're able to do is we've got a facility now, and we're hoping to build a new facility which is going to be even more inclusive, and it means that we can then hold the government, health, education, whatever it might be, to account and say, well, you need to cover this area. We provide a safe space for your workers to come to, and then they can come and they can then do what it is that they need to do. Thus, local people don't have to travel further away in order to be able to access those services. So that's an important role as well, and it just means that people are then getting direct services rather than us trying to cover all the bases. Really.
I like that. All right, I'm going to have to let you go. And
thank you, Laura.
I think that a lot of nonprofits and stuff could take what I take away is this. Another thing you kept mentioning is that there are other groups doing things.
Yes. Yep.
And you don't have to do the same thing, but as a disseminator of information, you're valuable.
That's right. To be able to work in harmony as much as you possibly can, and share out wherever you can. That's really one of the keys to good community development, rather than just try to do it all on your own.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to take this microphone from you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Keep
Laura.
up the good work, and we'll be hearing more from you, I'm sure.
Very good.
So
So to your audience, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Which means something. What does that mean?
Thank you, and that's the end of my kōrero.
There you go. Thank you. I'm going to take I'm going to take this opportunity to sing a little song, and then we've got Abby of Abby's Healing Haven coming up. So I ended up in the Coromandel Peninsula by some series of accidents, which clearly weren't accidents. And after about the third time I'd come back, people would say, my friends around here, they'd say, oh, have you been over to Hot Water Beach? And I'd go, oh, no. And they go, oh, well, next time around, you know. So it got to be like when I first arrived, there'd be all these plans. And then when it got to be closer to my departure, people just kept saying, you're going to, you know, the next time, we'll do it the next time around. And so that's what this song is called. I wrote it as I was leaving. There's different songs when you're coming and going, of course. There'll be a breeze blowing in the space in your mind. The wind will be whistling in the empty space I've left behind. Looking forward to the next time around. Here's hoping a jet stream carries me back to town. Yes, and the sun will be drifting through the leaves to the sand. Waves will be crashing here where now you see me standing. I'm looking forward to the next time around. Here's hoping a jet stream carries me back to town. Yes, and your music will be missing, and your time will seem long. Remembering and feeling the last time you heard my song. Looking forward to the next time around. Here's hoping a jet stream carries me back to town. Yes, and your pillow is empty. There's more space in your head. The sentences floating there, all the things you know I've said. I'm looking forward to the next time around. Here's hoping a jet stream carries me back to the Coromandel town. Yay. All right. Abby. Oh, I forgot to give you this. Mike, do not leave without taking a copy of this CD. And Kelly, there's one for you also. And there'll be one for you, Abby. And there's one for the young artist that did my work. Okay. Because I love to give things away. Abby. Mwah.
It's always lovely to have you in town.
It is. There you go, my dear. So, Abby of Abby's Healing Haven. Do you call yourself a healer?
Yes.
Oh, brave.
It is kind of brave. It's a brave path, but I didn't really choose it as much as it chose me. It's just because I'm afraid that
I don't know if it's making noise with that. Again. There we go. Maybe that's okay. Carry on.
Okay. So I'm very honoured, actually, and extremely humbled and privileged to receive intuitively healing messages for people when they come to me. That started happening when I was about 14, and it kind of blew my mind a bit because I didn't know what was happening at all. I'm actually a 7th generation New Zealander. All my female ancestors are Maori and my male ancestors are not. So I was brought up in an adopted family and with no reference to any of these things that were happening to me. But once I turned 32, I'd already met my adopted mother my birth mother when I was 27, and that's when I found out I was adopted. So when I was 32, my half-sister mentioned that my mother used to be a hands-on healer. So then the whole jigsaw sort of fell into place retrospectively. I'd been sort of walking blind in it for a long time without really understanding everything, but I believe it was basically through the prayers of my mother and my grandmother that I've stayed connected to the very rich heritage which I was part of, even though I wasn't a part of it, if you know what I mean. It just came to me through my bloodline. So that centered me more into being able to say that I was a healer. That and the work that I've done previous to that.
And I've heard you describe healing as going in and seeing. Describe that for me.
Okay, well, it's different for different people. For me, it's quite a physical experience where I can detect sort of density, and quite often there's a colour attached to it, but for me there's always a texture as well. So for example, if I'm removing trauma from an area, then it's a little bit like a spider web. It's very sticky, and I've kind of like got it on a stick and kind of winding it onto a... Yeah, so different colours, complementary colours too. So for example, if there was a lot of red in the density, then I might be using green light. Now I'm saying it's not I actually. There's nothing I can really take credit for in this. I think as a healer it's really important to remember that, because you can get wound up into some idea that you have some kind of ability or that is of your own. But in fact, when on my journey through healing, there's various powers that are able to assist different conditions. Now I just seek to work with the highest power. I take the shortcut. I work with Jesus. I work with Mary. They work with me is probably a better description. And yeah, it's really through my intuition, but at the same time I actually physically feel a lot of things in my fingertips, and occasionally within my whole body. There was a time where I would massage people and relieve them of their complaint, and then half an hour later I would have it. My big tip for that is to wash with salt. I think salt sort of interrupts the electrical charge that connects, so it's really important to stay protected and to stay aligned with the highest energies possible. Sometimes I'm removing entities from people, which is really, can I say it's dangerous? Do not try this at home. So, you know, you need to be aligned with a power higher than yourself in order to be a part of that. And it's a very humbling experience, and sometimes it's actually really draining.
It must be different. Like traditionally, you would have grown up with your mother and your grandmother behind you, and you would have watched them work, and you would have a framework for all these things, and to be sort of adopted out, and then you get these feelings. So I don't know. So have you?
Well, I speak with my mother, and it's interesting because we have a close connection through that same intuition, and so she will ask me about different things. She sort of learns from me, and as much as I learn from her. I think just because I haven't been attached to those traditions, I've had to make a bit of a windy path, and I've learned all sorts of things that have been important, or even things that have been interesting, but in the end that's all they've turned out to be, has been interesting, you know. So sometimes you can get into yourself into a little spiral of in your head about different traditions that have come to me, that I've learned from, that have been interesting, but in the end not significant enough to be important.
Yeah, not more important than Jesus and Mary for you. There.
Well, yeah.
Good on
you. See, I want things to be fast and clear and clean and without complication for me or the other person. So one of the things about that, working with those highest energies, is that there's no coercion or there's the ultimate respect for free will in that philosophy, and there's also a huge element of forgiveness. So those two things both are really paramount in healing, because you might see that somebody needs your help, but unless they ask you and come to you for an appointment, even if you can help them, and I do distance healings and stuff like that for people, so I could help them, but if I step into that realm, then I'm becoming a sorcerer right there. There's no helping people without them having asked you for an appointment, without crossing that line, which maybe looks like nothing, but it's actually quite serious.
It kind of ties into what Mike said about asking the elderly people what they want. You know, you don't just go fixing stuff up for people.
I did see parallels in that.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about this technique called tapping, which is, I don't know, where does that technique originate?
It's called emotional freedom technique. I can't remember the person who brought it forward.
But it's not a native healing tool. No. But it's quite interesting. Would you describe that for us?
Yeah, it's a relaxation technique that works with points in the face and head, and it could be either side, but these points that I'm tapping now, each point is on a bone and it vibrates in the body. So basically it sends a message to the body to release anti-stress hormones, basically serotonin. So if you're experiencing an enormous amount of panic about something,
like I was right before this show today when you showed up,
you can calm your nervous system with a simple technique that will help you just after about 5 minutes, especially if you're in an actual panic. It can take about 5 minutes of tapping, but then you'll notice, oh, okay, I've calmed down, and you can sort of see clearly and make a clear decision rather than an impulsive reaction out of fear. It's also been used beyond that for clearing self-forgiveness, forgiving others, because the body's getting a message at the same time as the mind is speaking. It embodies a shift in the mindset, which is often what's required in healing. Sometimes we hold pains and resentments that are held within the body through trauma, and so of course removing trauma from the body, that's part of the thing that I do, but also healing the mindset. It could be, even though these terrible things happen to me, I choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself. Maybe needing to ask yourself for forgiveness for even putting yourself in that situation unwittingly, you know, can go quite deep. Usually what happens in an appointment with me at that point, it could last maybe an hour. I will hear the words that, you know, will start with what happened, and I'll hear the sort of things that person made that mean. So,
right, because something happened, but as an individual, you put meaning on it that you carry around that cripples you as you go.
That's right. It's not so much about what happened,
no,
as much as it is about what we make it mean. So we can make it mean that, you know, a particular person really was trying to hurt us. Perhaps they were just acting out of ignorance and they were naive. But before we can allow that new perception in, we kind of have to tap out the old perception. So
Can I interrupt you 1 second to say, it's interesting, you talked about washing your hands with salt to clear this connection, and it seems like tapping is a little bit like, you know, washing with salt. It changes the...
It's a pattern interrupter.
Right.
So when you have a long-standing thought pattern and you understand it's not serving you anymore, but somehow intellectually you can't get your head around really changing that because that's just how you feel because it's a pattern, then sometimes when you interrupt that pattern you can then let new energy in. So rather than, I'm not talking about masking it and like I'm going to love and forgive myself when I don't. You know, it's hard to do that. So in the beginning you might start with all the negative stuff and not say anything about that. You might say, you know, I have these fears.
I have these fears.
You know,
nobody's going to show up from the show. And it's all going to go wrong.
Yeah. And what would that mean? You know, that would mean, what would that mean? Oh, that might mean
I'm a failure.
It would mean I failed. You know, and so then, you know, and then you can really catastrophize it and make it, and then, you know, and then the world would end, and, you know, and then you sort of catch yourself going, wow, that was, you know, overblown, and you can laugh, and then you can tap in, well, even if nobody turned up to my show, even if nobody watched this clip, I still love and accept myself. I still enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I don't need validation from my social media presence in order to feel whole, you know. So you can explore those feelings, and so I originally didn't understand that scripting for this stuff was actually difficult for other people, because for me it's quite simple. But mind you, with my own deepest stuff, not necessarily. People come to me for help with that, and I'm always really honoured that people trust me with that, and I just, yeah, I feel that forgiveness is something that opens the door for us to be forgiven. Quite often when we don't forgive someone who's really wronged us, you know, just even forgiving them for being in league with dark forces or whatever, you know, I can see in my life when I do forgive someone that it's because I have to say to myself, I've also been there. You know, I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. Not, you know, sometimes because I haven't been there, but I understand the sentiment, you know, so... And I understand that I'm no better than you, basically, you know, because that pride can keep us from forgiveness. And
here we are.
Humility in the face of higher power is healing, full stop. That's how we find our breath, that's how we find our life, that's how we find our nature, our true nature. Over and above everything that happens to us, over and above wherever our good, beautiful, rich heritages have come from. Even beyond that, you know, we're all one people on this planet, and we're all here to raise our vibration as much as we can so that we can be of assistance to others.
Yay. All right, well, our hour is just about done, Miss Abby. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sort of describing a little bit about how it feels to you, because, I don't know, people that aren't healers, you know, it's sort of interesting.
Yeah.
So I am going to take that microphone from you, and Abby has been acting as our camera person. So she is now going to come from in front of the camera, and she's going to turn off the show. Thank you all. We'll be doing a show 2 weeks from now up at the White House on the Hill. Amazing. Thank you so much. Hey, there's a button that says finish. See, usually we have a young woman named Trina who's on staff doing these sorts of things. There's no button that says finish. Well, perhaps I shall wonder. Maybe I can do it.
Oh, your live video has ended.
Well, there you go. So it's done.